Hi, I'm Deanna Springer.
And I'm Dana Casey with the Fun Stitch It Sisters Sewing Project and Classic Time-Saving Tips by Nancy Zieman.
First, let's take a look at the project we're making today. We'll be making our new Fusible Fun art quilt with Riley Blake Designs confetti cottons, Pellon Wonder Under, Pellon Peltex one-sided fusible ultra-firm stabilizer, Clover's 5-in-1 sliding gauges, Clover's Ultimate Quilt and Stitch presser foot, and our Bernette 77 sewing machine.
Create a modern art quilt in an evening with our quick and easy fusing techniques.
To make our fun fusible art, we'll first choose our fabrics. We've selected Riley Blake confetti cotton fabrics. These high-quality solid fabrics make beautiful quilts and lovely fused art. We're starting with fat quarters in 10 colors and additional yardage for the backing. Next, we'll prepare our fabrics. A classic time-saving tip by my longtime friend Nancy. Pre-shrink your fabrics by steaming and pressing, and then spray press and starch fabric with Quilter Starch Savvy. Next, we'll cut our fabrics, Wonder Under, and Peltex with a rotary cutter, mat, and a ruler. From each of the 10 fat quarters, we'll cut one 8 by 22 inch crosswise fabric strip. From the backing fabric, we'll cut one 20 by 22 inch square. From Wonder Under, we'll cut 10 8 by 22 inch rectangles. From Peltex one-sided fusible ultra-firm stabilizer, we'll cut one 20 by 20 inch square. Next, we'll fuse our Wonder Under rectangles to the back of each fabric strip, and then we'll subcut. So I'll set the finished art quilt here, and here is our 8 by 22 inch crosswise fabric strip. And we've already fused our Wonder Under to the back. So we've taken our Wonder Under at the ironing board and pressed it in place. Then we cut this, we subcut it. We subcut it into two rectangles. So right here we have our orange rectangles. We've already cut the orange rectangle and all of our other colors into our two 4-inch by 22 inch crosswise fabric strips. It just makes the process quicker. You could cut all of the pieces in the beginning and then fuse all the individual rectangles, but we need that dimension anyway, so just fuse it onto one long rectangle and then subcut it. Okay. So once we've subcut it into two crosswise fabric strips, we need to do another step of subcutting. We'll take the first crosswise fabric strip and we'll subcut it into our 4-inch squares. So at the cutting mat, we've cut all of our squares into we've cut one strip into 4-inch squares.
I think one thing that I'd like to note when we were doing this project is to start from the end that the selvage is not on, because we did find that if we cut from the selvage end that those pokey holes will end up in your quilt.
So either trim off your selvages or start from the center cut edge and move that way. But even though we had selvages within our blocks, they overlapped and they were hidden anyway. And it's fusible art. There are no rules. We're breaking all the rules here today. So we take the second crosswise fabric strip that has the Wonder Under fused to the back, and we make our circles. We're going to trace circles. So with our 5-in-1 sliding gauge, our 6-inch 5-in-1 sliding gauge, we'll draw a circle. And we've set the 5-in-1 sliding gauge at the 1.5 inch marking, and we'll trace that 3-inch circle. So a 1.5 inch marking gives you that 3-inch circle. We're looking for 3-inch circles here. So you're going to be doing a bunch of tracing of circles all the way. Fill the strip up with circles and then cut them out. And then you have options for when you're fusing your dots in place on the art piece. So we've cut all of the circles out, but we don't start with the circles. We start with the squares. But before we place our squares, we want to prepare the back. This is our 20-inch Peltex square, but it's fusible on one side. On the back are the fusible dots. And we want to finish off the back of the quilt. Let me bring this one back. You can see that the front is beautiful and the back has been finished with one piece of fabric. And actually we used fat quarters, so we seamed it a little bit here, or just overlap it with a little Wonder Under and get creative. It's fusible art. Remember, no rules. So to finish our backing, we took our 20-inch square of fabric and we placed it on the fusible side, that glue dot side of the Peltex one-sided fusible. Peltex, we've used Peltex a lot in bag making and things, but we've not used the fusible. Art quilts and fusible art are a great medium to use with the one-sided fusible. So we iron this in place at the ironing board. And our next sample shows that it's already ironed into place. So here's the back, it's already fused into place, and here's the front. It's the other side of the Peltex, the non-fusible side.
And you can definitely feel a difference.
It's smooth, there are no glue dots. Not to be mixed up with Pellon two-sided Peltex that's fusible on both sides, which is fun to work with too, but we're using the one-sided fusible today.
Yes.
The first thing we do is we place the center square. So using our supersized 5-in-1 sliding gauge, we find the center and place the square. And we know that we've already set our 5-in-1 sliding gauge, the supersize, at 8 inches. Right, we want to remove the paper backing or it won't fuse in place so well. And we place that in the center approximately, and then we use the 5-in-1 sliding gauge to locate that in the center and just straighten it. We'll be trimming this before we're done, so get it close to the center. It doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
So once we have our square in the center, we press it in place. And you'll want to use an applique pressing sheet to press this into place. Today, we're throwing caution to the wind to show you that we're pressing those squares in place. Use the iron set at a wool setting. If the iron is too hot, you'll melt the Peltex.
Yes. I do have a nice sheet of Peltex with an iron print in it.
A reminder. And you'll use your applique pressing sheet, but we wanted you to show the quilt or the art piece building from the center out. So we start from the center out.
And then we'll place a second square about a scant 1/4 of an inch over the existing square.
We're overlapping. We're overlapping a little bit. And you've already removed the paper backing.
I did.
So turn the iron up a little bit and let it warm up. And then we'll fuse. We'll fuse that square into place. And we're not calling them quilt blocks because there's no seaming. And you don't have to worry about perfect intersections in your seams.
So
just overlap, working clockwise. And there was no marking, no measuring, except for placing that center orange square. And you can place your art quilt squares in any order. All the colors work well together. We have a lot of medium fabrics, some light fabrics, and some darks, just an assortment. I'm really drawn to medium solid fabrics, medium tone. And there are a whole bunch of those medium tone fabrics within our fusible art. And it's okay. We can break the rules and use a lot of our favorite mediums.
Yes.
A lot of us are drawn to the quilting fabrics that have a medium tone. So that's it. We're working clockwise, and we're just placing squares, overlapping.
This kind of reminds me of when we were like in kindergarten or preschool when they had the little felt people and they'd tell the story when
the felt boards.
Yes.
Those were so much fun. The felt boards were so much fun. I was one of those at home, but they were only at school.
Right.
Right, and they would just cling. The felt would naturally cling to the felt board, and you could make little shapes and things, and learn arithmetic and things like that too. Just fun. And now you're not worried about the intersections not matching up.
And you can see it's a little offset there, but that's what gives it its charm.
That's what we want.
And uniqueness. Every one you make is going to be absolutely different. I was thinking too that, with all the scraps, maybe I'll make a little mosaic fusible art project.
And from 1 fat quarter, there are plenty of fabrics that you could make 2 of these. You could find a different backing fabric or piece the scraps that you had left over.
And make one for your sister.
Right, one for your other sister. I know our sister Deanna will really like this quilt.
She will love this.
And she could make it. She likes to paint and garden and things like that. Not so much sewing and stitching and quilting, but she likes those art night, paint nights.
Yes.
And this is a great project. We should have a sister's fusible art night. Instead of painting,
Yes.
we can do our fusing.
And this is fun, and it goes together, you know, fairly quickly. But you just make up your own design and do it as you go.
Mm-hmm. Enjoy the process. No need to rush. Great job. It looks so pretty. We have now completed our squares, our 4-inch squares on the back of that 20-inch Peltex. Now you could stop here. This is a fun little square art piece, square fused art piece, but we'll add some dots.
We will.
And we were inspired to make this quilt. I have a kitchen plate hanging in my kitchen by my stove, and it has squares and dots on it, and I've been wanting to make this fusible art quilt for a long time. So the same thing, we place our center.
Do you want to go at the center, or do you want to go at the top?
Oh, wherever you'd like to start. There are no rules, it's an art quilt. Should we start in the center or top?
Yeah, we can start at the center.
So we've just placed our 3-inch circles kind of centered inside the 4-inch center square. You've peeled off the paper backing, revealing that fusible web. And just center. Building that quilt again, working from the center out, fusing those dots into place. And you were talking when we were collaborating on this project that you'd like to try one of this tumbler size, a tumbler shape.
To do tumblers or a triangle, something just completely different.
Right. I'm partial to my circles.
She is. She likes her polka
I like my dots.
Up a little bit.
Up a little bit.
I was even thinking this morning on the drive-in that little or smaller squares inside a square would be cool, or mix a little of everything.
I like that.
Circles, squares,
squares within
rectangles,
squares. And the squares could be placed, and see I peeled up that little corner, but just put it back down.
It's so forgiving.
And it doesn't matter what those intersections look like. And place another square. We're just mostly not placing the same color circle inside the background, same color background square. But otherwise, you know, it can be random. All of these fabrics go well together. So just enjoy the process. It's a free form, fun, fusible art quilt.
It's so exciting to see it come together because you can map it out, or you just, you know, place whatever you want, wherever you want.
And there's no piecing, there's no stitching. There's no stitching of the squares together, there's no stitching the circles. You don't have to sew it down. We're fusing. It's fusible art. And I think we have a fusible art piece that's all fused into place.
Yes.
But we have a little bit of Peltex all the way around, and that's a good thing. It's a surface to work on. We cut that 20 inches square and the backing fabric as well. But now we take it to the cutting board or use the scissors and trim. Just trim it square. Trim a little bit of that Peltex off each of the 4 edges and square it up. And then it could be done. Your fusible art piece could be done. However, we like to sew. We're the Stitch It sisters.
We are Stitch It.
So we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch with our Ultimate Quilt and Stitch presser foot from Clover. And we'll use some different colors of variegated sulky weight blendables, sulky 12 weight blendables threads. And we'll take some nice long stitches and do a little top stitching.
Yes.
Or it's straight line machine quilting is what it is. And then you have a completed project. And this looks great hanging on the wall. This would be a great art piece underneath the glass of the coffee table in the living room. And you could make this in different sizes. You don't have to make the square.
Right. You could frame it as well.
Right, frame it. Frame it, absolutely. I think I'll do that with mine.
Yes.
Our new Fusible Fun Art Quilt is such a fast and fun project to make.
I'm looking forward to having a Fusible Fun Art Night with both of my kids.
We hope you've enjoyed the Stitch It Sisters project. You'll find this pattern along with a limited number of bundle boxes at stitchitsisters.com.
Be sure to tune in again for another Stitch It Sisters sewing adventure.
In the meantime, connect with Stitch It Sisters and friends on our social sites. Stitch It Sisters is made possible by Bernina, Clover, Riley Blake Designs, OESD, Oklahoma Embroidery Supply and Design, and shopnzp.com.
Bernina, made to create.